Welcome back to Klepper's Corner, your one-stop shop for political satire, media mayhem, and now your weekly dose of Did That Actually Happen? Because while the world burns, freezes, floods, and tweets itself into a frenzy, somewhere a man is faking an embassy from the nation of Saborga. And I, for one, would like dual citizenship. This week's Weird News Rundown spans July 24th through the 28th. We've got skydivers playing tag with power lines, underwear thieving cats with delusions of grandeur, vultures hand-fed by puppets, and Bigfoot getting his close-up. Buckle up, because this is what happens when the writers of reality TV get bored and start freelancing for real life. Segment 1, Skydiver becomes a human wind chime. Let's start in Tracy, California, where the sky isn't the limit. It's the beginning of your electrical hazard training. A skydiver ended up suspended in power lines like a very confused Christmas ornament after their parachute got caught during descent. Emergency crews responded with all the calm professionalism of people who've seen way too many TikTok challenges gone wrong. They had to wait for PG&E to shut off the power before pulling this high-flying thrill-seeker down. And thank God PG&E actually showed up. Usually PG&E's idea of shutting off power involves half the state and a fire warning. This time, they were on it. Good news, the skydiver only had minor injuries. Bad news, they now owe PG&E a $4,000 accidental grid hugger surcharge and a personalized power pole plaque. Here hung Chad, July 2025. Segment 2, cat burglar in a literal sense. Next, let's go to Auckland, New Zealand, where one cat has taken the term cat burglar to impressive new lows. Meet Leonardo da Vinci, real name Leo, a 15-month-old feline kleptomaniac with a thirst for undergarments and the dramatic. This cat has been raiding clotheslines, bedrooms, and apparently even a novelty snake convention, returning home with enough fabric to start his own fashion line. Meowchi Spring-Summer Collection. His owner had to start a WhatsApp group just to return the stolen items. Yes, you heard me. There's now a neighborhood task force dedicated to identifying and reclaiming socks, thanks to one cat with boundary issues. Leo's haul has included baby onesies, men's boxers, and just for flair, a 5-foot-long stuffed snake. Which begs the question, was that the heist or the getaway vehicle? Segment 3, vultures fed by puppets. No, seriously. Over in Prague, zookeepers are feeding orphaned vultures with hand puppets. That's right, puppets. Apparently, real parent vultures were just not up to the task, so conservationists had to improvise. These puppets are detailed enough to make Jim Henson weep from the beyond. Sesame Street meets Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. And the goal is to keep the chicks from imprinting on humans, which is wise. The last thing you want is a vulture thinking it's a Czech zookeeper. That ends with them demanding a union and eating your lunch. Honestly, I'm just impressed the zoo is investing in creative parenting. Meanwhile, in America, we're still debating whether teachers can afford puppets at all. Segment 4, diplomatic immunity from reality. Next up, India, where one man has taken fake it till you make it and turned it into forge it until the cops arrive. Harsh Vardhan Jain was arrested for running a fake embassy out of his house. And not just any embassy. He claimed to represent made-up countries like West Arctica and Saborga. You know, the vacation destinations of your dreams and the plot line of at least 2 Bond villains. He had diplomatic plates, faked meetings with Indian officials using Photoshop, and had 12 forged diplomatic passports. Honestly, this man created more believable governments than half the micronations on Reddit. Authorities found him with stamps, fake documents, fake pawn cards, and cash. But the best part? He actually had clients. People gave him money, thinking they were getting real diplomatic deals. Let that sink in. This man faked being a diplomat for fictional nations and still gained more trust than actual politicians. If that's not the weirdest flex of the week, I don't know what is. Segment 5, MRI tragedy, death by magnet. And now for a tragic and deeply strange event out of Westbury, New York. A 61-year-old man died after being pulled into an MRI machine because he entered the room wearing a heavy metal necklace while a scan was in progress. Folks, if there was ever a time to not accessorize, it's when the room has a giant magnet strong enough to turn your bling into a missile. It's deeply unfortunate and horrifying, and yet also highlights something we often forget. Modern medical equipment is basically sorcery wrapped in plastic. This wasn't a patient. This was someone who entered unauthorized. Which raises a bigger question. How do you casually stroll into an active MRI session like it's a Bed Bath & Beyond? Let this be a reminder. Magnets are not toys. And if you're not part of the scan, maybe don't enter the techno death tube. Segment 6, reporter to the rescue. And finally, a wholesome twist from Chicago. WLS reporter Christian Picos was mid-broadcast, doing his thing, standing at the lakefront, when he saw a cyclist crash into a runner. What did he do? He dropped the report and helped the cyclist. Just ran off camera to help. The cyclist was fine, no medical help needed, but the reporter's instinctual response was the real story. In a media landscape filled with people who'd probably live stream your funeral before calling 911, it's nice to see someone choose humanity over headline. And then he casually returned to his broadcast like, anyway, back to the humidity index. Bravo, Picos. May your ratings be high and your mic always work. Segment 7, chicken disrupts courthouse, public loses its cluckin' mind. To Zimbabwe we go, where on July 25th, the justice system was briefly upstaged by a fashion-forward chicken. This wasn't just any poultry. This was a chicken wearing a scarf, a sassy little neck wrap, parading like it was walking the Milan runway, not the local courthouse. Witnesses said the chicken walked as if it were human, which raises the terrifying possibility that it wasn't just a chicken. It might have been an intern cursed by a witch with a sense of humor. Or, a chicken with main character energy. Locals immediately assumed black magic, because when something makes absolutely no sense and involves fashion choices, witchcraft is the obvious answer. This whole thing was giving strong Bewitched meets Judge Judy vibes. No one knows where the chicken went. It vanished. One day it's strutting across a courthouse in a scarf. The next, it's gone. Honestly, it probably got called back to Hogwarts for its magical ethics exam. Segment 8, Bigfoot sighting season in full swing. You know it's summer when the Bigfoot sightings roll in like pumpkin spice lattes in October. On July 25th, a video from Alberta surfaced showing a dark, suspiciously Bigfoot-shaped form on a distant ridge. Meanwhile, 2 campers in Washington state reported their own binocular-enhanced Sasquatch experience. Because nothing screams definitive evidence like blurry silhouettes and 2 people yelling, "That's gotta be a thigh." But it doesn't end there. New surveys show a striking disparity in belief across cultures. Only 12% of Brits believe in the Loch Ness Monster, which honestly feels high considering the only monsters in the UK are tabloid editors. Meanwhile, in the US, 48% believe in psychic healing and 39% in ghosts. So nearly half of Americans believe that waving crystals around can fix your back pain and that grandma's ghost is judging you for dating that guy with the earring. Welcome to America, where we trust ghosts more than the IRS. Bigfoot sightings prove we'll always crave mystery. Aliens, ghosts, lake monsters, these are our adult fairy tales. And frankly, with election season around the corner, I'd rather believe in Sasquatch than another campaign ad. Segment 9, Robin goes rogue, steals cop car, AC. Let's now go to Reidsville, North Carolina, where a bird committed the most adorable break-in of the week. An officer left his patrol car open while grabbing something. When he returned, he started driving, only to feel something bop him on the back of the head. No, it wasn't a rogue mosquito or ghost of traffic tickets past. It was a robin, a baby robin. Turns out the bird had hopped into the cop car to escape the 90-degree heat and was hanging out in the sweet, sweet AC. That's right, this robin found the climate crisis unbearable and said, "Time to commandeer a vehicle." The officer snapped a selfie with his feathery stowaway before setting it free. No charges were pressed. Because let's be honest, a mugshot of that bird would have made it a folk hero. This is the best PR police have had all year. Finally, a dashboard cam story that doesn't end with litigation. Segment 10, Trolls Save the Humans. On July 26th, we took a turn for the whimsical with Danish artist Thomas Dambo's wooden troll installations, part of Trolls Save the Humans. These recycled material giants are popping up at places like Filoli in California, giving environmental awareness a much-needed injection of fairy tale absurdity. The message? We need to change our habits before we get trolled by nature. It's eco-activism with a sense of humor. Think of it as Greta Thunberg meets Shrek. Instead of yelling at world leaders, these trolls just sit there, 10 feet tall, staring at you like disappointed dads. Dambo's work reminds us that activism doesn't always have to look like a protest. Sometimes it can look like a gigantic wooden goofball daring you to litter. And if a giant troll can convince a kid to recycle, that's a win. We've tried education, guilt, and celebrity PSAs. Maybe it's time we tried mythological peer pressure. Segment 11, a ghost town of hotels. Also on July 26th, one man made a discovery straight out of a horror movie, a ghost town of hotels. We don't have the full story, just the headline, but that's enough. Abandoned hotels, that's every horror film's Act 1. What's in room 307? Probably regret and leftover vending machine hummus. There's something universally eerie about empty spaces that were once full of life. Ghost towns are the ultimate proof that capitalism has a shelf life. What failed here? Tourism? Real estate grift? A curse? Maybe the scarf-wearing chicken came through and hexed the front desk. Regardless, discovering a whole collection of abandoned hotels is weird news gold. It's either an urban explorer's dream or the next installment of American Horror Story Hospitality Edition. Segment 12, the day the weird took a break. Now, let's be fair. Sometimes weird news takes a nap. July 27th was quiet. No Bigfoots, no troll sculptures, no chicken hijinks. Just a day of normalcy, which in weird news terms is basically a blackout. Weirdness, like comedy, is all about timing. You can't force it. If every day had a skydiver tangled in a power line, we'd stop being surprised. And then what? We're just numb to chaos. That's called the internet. So we let July 27th be, a day to reflect, to hydrate, to ask ourselves if maybe the chicken was right all along. Segment 13, lizard on the loose. And finally, we wrap our journey of the bizarre in Webster, Massachusetts, where a 5-foot-long water monitor lizard named Goose escaped and turned the region into a real-life Jurassic Park suburb edition. Goose had been missing for a week. Then he showed up in Thompson, Connecticut, 5 miles away, probably chasing the scent of an illegal pet owner who didn't get the required permit. Authorities are now working with a reptile specialist, which is code for we don't want to grab this thing ourselves. The story is a classic tale. Lizard escapes, travels state lines, eludes capture, and becomes a minor celebrity. It's basically Thelma and Louise with scales. The fact that this creature survived, roamed free, and may still be out there tells us 2 things. Reptiles are more resourceful than we think, and maybe don't keep jungle lizards as pets in your suburban ranch house. Kevin. In conclusion, weird is wonderful. So, what have we learned this week? Skydiving is risky. Cats are jerks. Chickens might be sorcerers. Lizard ownership should come with a license and a leash. And Bigfoot is out here making content while you're still doom scrolling. The week's weird news reminds us that the bizarre is not only entertaining, it's educational. It shows us the cracks in our systems, the wildness of nature, and the fact that humans will always find new, inventive ways to be just a little unhinged. Stay curious, stay weird, and always double check your embassy isn't run out of a guy's basement. See you next week, weirdos.